Welcome, everybody. It's another wonderful Monday night of Chewin the BBQ Fat. A little late tonight with the guest I have coming on tonight. I generally have an agenda set, and without my agenda, I don't know what to do. So I was having a look to make sure I had an agenda. You all can guess who's coming on tonight. I'm really excited. I asked Robert anytime to come on the show because he's always got so much insight, his fingers on what's going on with barbecue. Just so proud of him and proud to be a friend with him and everything else. So anytime I can have Robert come on the show, I love it. I called Bill Purvis today, Chicken Fried. I was like, man, it's going to be a great night. I got Robert coming on. And he's got this whole Robert is not Chris Schaefer. We had our fill of Chris Schaefer last week, and, it was a very good show talking about the pork rule. We do have a KCBS rep on tonight. So if the pork rule comes up and y'all want to ask, go ahead. She's like, oh no. But it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. So tonight's show is going to be awesome. But I do want to apologize. I was a little late. Really wasn't looking for the agenda. Tomorrow's my birthday and we were at a birthday party. I couldn't get out, but we had a great time. So anyway, without any other questions or anything else, Robert has got the show tonight, and I'm just going to he basically said, get me on the show, shut up, and let me run with it. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. I can't wait. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. He's my buddy. Sarah today, I was talking to Robert. I was like, and he's like, Dad, is that Mr. Robert? I said, it is. Said, I want to cook with him so I can spray him with water and he can spray me.
Oh, yeah. She loves the squirt bottle.
She does.
Right, yeah, she loves that.
She does. Robert, thank you so much for coming on, man. You're my best friend, barbecue. I love it. I enjoy getting to spend time with you. We haven't been able to cook lately together, but you've been out there. You're doing a lot. You know what's going on. There's a lot of new stuff happening.
Oh yeah.
And you've got an idea for tonight's show. So why don't you go ahead and
well, yeah, I wanted to do a show this week because as you've probably seen, we'd be seeing a lot of comment cards showing up on Facebook. And I sort of wanted to talk about it because a lot of people comment on those posts, and I don't think they really fully understand the comment card process and the time that's involved and what kind of time the judges and the reps and those people that deal with those comment cards, what timeline they have by the time they've got it stapled to the score sheet packet and sent back to the team. So without further ado, I was able to get Julie Cook.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, how are you? Julie Cook is a KCBS rep. I'll let her talk about her years of experience. But for years since we've been cooking, we've always looked for the cooks and the braziers to be reps. You're going to have a good contest if you have either of those sets of reps. Of course, Rusty's not on tonight, but his better half is here, Julie. So, Julie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit, talk about your experience.
All right. Well, my name is Julie Cook, and I am a KCBS rep, basically repping contests in the Southeast, although we do go to a few contests. We've had 2 this year in West Virginia. I've done the Uncasville in Connecticut with the braziers. I've been doing this about 7 years as a rep, KCBS rep, Rusty and I together. We've been judging 12 or 13 years. We have over 150 contests that we have judged and a little over 100 contests that we've repped. When we judged all over the country, and I counted once, and we've repped with probably 50 of the reps that of people who have been reps. Some of them are no longer reps, but we had a lot of good experience under a lot of people. So while we were trained under specific people as reps, we were also trained by a lot of different reps.
All right. So there's no doubt we have the right person on tonight to talk about this topic.
I think that probably one of our contests spurred this on, so I'll be happy to talk about it.
I don't know if that's the case or not, but yeah, so we wanted to talk comment cards, and I figured what we would do is start the process from the beginning. All right. So the judge is judging the category, and then I guess they're given comment cards, correct, at the table.
Comment cards are placed on the table, and the judges are encouraged to fill out a comment card for anything, any score a 6 and below. Recently, we've had a request from a lot of teams that if a judge gives an 8 and knows what they can tell a cook of why they didn't give a 9, that sometimes the cooks like to know what would help them go to that 9. So we kind of encourage also for them to give a comment card if they have time for those 8s with sort of a push toward what they feel like would make a 9. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the judges judge, they get their sample, they've judged it. They're encouraged to make notes on their plate of the scoring plate of the things that they've noticed that they might want to put on a comment card so that they can go ahead and complete their scorecard and turn it into the rep and let the process move on while they're doing their comment cards. I don't know if I can make this where you can see it. Let's see. So this is the top of the comment card. The judge fills in the box entry number. This is the entry number that the judge sees, so your alternate number. Okay. And then they fill out the card, which you've all seen. So I don't have to show you that. They fill it out with the category, if they're a CBJ, and then the scores. Once they fill this out, they give it to the table captain, and the table captain reviews it. We also review when we pick up, a rep has to pick up the cards, the scorecards, sort through them, make sure that they can read, obviously, the scores. And also that if there needs to be a comment card, any score that is like 2 scores off of the rest of the table, they're encouraged to write a comment card. So we review that for that, and the table captains also review to see if it needs a comment card, and they mention it as well to the judge.
Okay.
They fill out this comment card and give it to the table captain, who then gives it to us. And depending on whether we have people who can help us with this, sometimes people get started with a process. Sometimes this process has to wait until the end of the contest. But we take the comment card and we match that alternate number at the top with the team number. And we write the team number and we tear off the top alternate number, obviously. We do that. Once we do that, then we sort them by team number and by category. Then we go through it, and hopefully we have time to read and see if the comments all make sense. Although, to be honest with you, we try and give you the comments because y'all have said, give us whatever they said. So that's what we do. Then once we've entered all the scores, we've audited the scores, we're ready to print out your team detail sheets. Once those team detail sheets have been printed out, we sit down and we compare all of the comment cards with the team detail sheets to make sure that the scores they've given you for that category match the scores that are on the comment cards. Because, it doesn't make sense if you get a comment card that doesn't have a score that matches.
Yeah.
And then we staple it and onto the team detail sheets. We add that to whatever, if we're gonna print out the results and give them to you, and then sort that in alpha order. And that's the process.
So going back to when the judges, all right, they're filling out the comment cards. You said they might make notes on their scoring mat,
right,
if you will. And then from the time they start sort of filling out those comment cards to when they need to be ready for the next category, how much time are we talking?
Oof. Some of that depends on when they got their sample, because if they're one of the first to get a tray, they have a little bit more time. They may have 5 minutes, 10 minutes to fill it out. If they're one of the last tables to get theirs, they may have less than 5 minutes.
Okay, so it's not a lot of time.
Not a lot of time.
Yeah, so we're talking 10 minutes or less.
Sure.
To fill out a comment card.
I think so.
And then if you're doing more than one, or you feel obligated to do more than one, that could pretty much take up your time, and you can feel pretty hurried, I guess, if you were a judge.
Yes, I guess you could. Really, though, we seem to get them in fairly quickly. They don't write a lot of. They're not. Hopefully, they're not writing a book. So a lot of them just check the descriptions and let it go at that. We don't ever go into the next category waiting on comment cards. So I think that they do it as quickly as possible, but I don't think they're really that. We don't hurry them.
Gotcha.
We never hurry them.
I guess my point is there's not a whole lot of time for them to, they might feel hurried, if you will, if they know they got to get ready for the next category.
Right.
Especially if they're the last set of boxes, the last table to get boxes.
Right. And the judges around them are clearing their table. And, once they've been cleared by the rep, then they can clear their scorecard, their table of all of the leftover product and whatnot, and clear the table and start setting out the new supplies. So that person could feel very rushed if everyone around them is preparing the table for the next category. Yeah.
So as far as the table captain, do they do any kind of checks on the comment cards at all? Or do they just pass them on to the rep?
They have the opportunity to look at them and read them if they want, if they have time. They're also getting ready. They've just taken up all of the cards. They're helping to clear the table and put out new supplies. So they don't have a lot of time either, especially those last tables. They have very little time because they've got to get back in line and get their next sample.
Are there certain comments on comment cards that the table captain are asked to sort of highlight for you, or?
No, they would
okay.
primarily just show us if they saw something that kind of looked odd or questionable, they might point it out to whatever rep is there.
Okay.
Hi, Brian.
Does that ever happen?
Yes.
It does happen.
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to put it out there. There's a question. If there's a question we ask that I don't want you to get you in any trouble with KCBS. So if you can't answer something, you just let us know.
I'm going to answer honestly, and I don't think KCBS will have any problem with me answering honestly.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
Chris Sheff wants to know if this is on the agenda. Chris, my agenda that I was sent from Robert said, I got this. So, I'm just, but you know me, I'm going to interject. I can't sit here and be quiet for too long. But one thing that I wanted to say, Wes Gary just said, you can tell Robert has Brian on a short leash, LOL. He does. And I listen to him. Whenever he comes on, I do what he says.
Yeah.
But real quick, I know where this is coming from. There has been some comments being made on comment cards, blah, blah, blah. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But as cooks, this is a comment that I had with one of my cooking buddies. We generally take everything so word for word, over the top, overanalyze everything that is on that comment card, because that's really and truly the only feedback we get. So when we get these comment cards, and I think, Robert, as when we discuss this, is part of the reason
we'll get into that. Yeah.
I'll shut up.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
We overanalyze everything. So when the judges have this short time, it's almost like, hey, don't just rush, but give good. And for most part, I think there's a lot of really good comment cards and everything else. But all I was going to say, and I'll be quiet, I'll go back in my side over here, is, we overanalyze everything on those comment cards. Would you agree with that, Robert?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. You see it all the time. And that's where I'm getting to this whole timing thing, where when you're taking something literally where there's very little time for it to be processed or comments put on it, you got to give them a little leeway there, I think. And that's what I want to get to next is, okay, Julie, you've been given the comment cards. If you don't have the time to work on those until after brisket, how much time are we talking about to deal with those? Usually
we have about an hour. I mean, we have a good bit of time. We can go through them and we can pull now.
But that includes you printing out sheets and everything, though, right?
Well, yeah, we start processing it, changing the numbers and that kind of thing while we're printing out the sheets. So, and there's always at least two of us. So, generally, I'm entering scores, I'm printing the reports and that type of thing. Rusty is processing, and usually we have Carolyn Wells calls our posse with us. We have people who, come to the contest. They know how to do these things. They can help us. So they're helping us process the number changes and that kind of thing and giving them to us for us to review. So for the most part, we can look at these and we can cull out. At least we do. I think most reps do cull out. That said, at a contest like Greenwood 2 weeks ago, we had over 500 comment cards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And we had an hour to process those 500 comment cards. So we did not read any of them. We didn't, other than just a cursory glance at them, we didn't have an opportunity. We didn't even have the opportunity really to verify the scores. It was just a matter of changing those numbers and pushing them out, because we also had a hash category. So at 2:00, we had hash turned in. So it was 2:30 before everyone released and had a chance. Fortunately, we had a 5:00 award. So we had a little bit of extra time, but there's not a lot of time to process 500 comment cards.
Yeah. Well, for that hour that you said you have an hour, you're not just doing comment cards for an hour though, right?
No.
You're doing other things besides that.
Right. We're
it's the whole process.
Scores. It's the whole process. Right.
Okay. All right.
Quick. Chris Lemon said, what is their thought on a judge that gives out a 5 or 6 and not giving a comment card? Julie at the beginning said that is it just you as you're all being reps, or is that the KC? Is that what KCBS is?
KCBS, and the judges hear this on the KCBS recording that is played at the beginning of every contest, okay, at the beginning of the judging process. And that's that you are encouraged to give a comment card for a score 6 and below. It's not mandatory, and it's also said it's not mandatory. At the judges meeting, we tell them, they should be able to comment on any score they give. They should be able to back up any score that's given to you. So they should feel okay giving a comment card. That said, nobody likes to go on Facebook the next day and find 100 judges bashing their comment. So some of them,
cooks, you mean?
Pardon?
You said 100 judges bashing.
Yeah, 100 cooks. Yeah, a huge string of comments that bash the judges. So, yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and say,
okay,
I'm not going to say what comment we're leading to. My buddy is the comment that was thrown out there. I've had a conversation with my friend. I talk to him every day. Great guy. I understand what the comment was. Like when I said we overanalyze everything. So with that being said, it's like, and then of course cooks are just so quick to jump on and just pile on things, right? But I understood what he was going on. He still doesn't get it, and that's fine. And we talk about it all the time. I joke with him a lot about it too. But that being said, Robert, I know this is where you're going with all this, but it's almost like, man, please give us comment cards. If I have heard one time at a contest, I've heard it 1,000 times. Hey, can we get comment cards? 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 Then we get a comment card and it doesn't say your food is perfect. It says something different. And then we get mad because I'm speaking for myself. I'm going to piss off a lot of cooks. I know. We've never turned in bad food, right? Like everything we've ever turned in is perfect. And a judge tells us our food is bad, by golly, they don't know what they're talking about, right? So it's the best cooks out there, the Roberts of the world, the Bill Purvises, the Chris Schaefer, they take the criticism and try to figure it out instead of just getting. And I'm not talking about my buddy; he's a very good cook too. He is. But it's like it's one of those deals. It's like, man, let's just step back. If you read that the skin is tough on protein that doesn't necessarily have skin, we'll sit back and try and figure out what's being said, right? That's kind of, and Robert, I'm gonna let you go with that because I'm taking too much tonight.
And I agree with Julie, and I've heard it from several. We're friends with a lot of judges out there, and we've interacted with a lot of judges out there, and that's what I've heard from them for years now. Is you know what? I'm getting tired of seeing cooks put comment cards on social media because they're basically saying, here's this comment card this judge gave us. They're idiots. They might not be saying those words verbatim, but that's essentially what you're doing. You're making fun of that person. And we'll get into their experience level. We'll get into their experience level here in a few minutes, but that is one of the reasons they may not do comment cards. You said that's what you're hearing, Julie. Are you seeing that still as an issue from some judges that say they don't feel comfortable doing comment cards?
They don't give us a reason why they don't do it. They just say they would prefer not to.
Before you get any farther, Julie, Paul Kellner has lied on here in our comments. He's just flat out lied. Robert, are you seeing what he said? He's yet to cook perfect meat. The guy cooks perfect meat every time he cooks. Can y'all believe he said that? Robert, can you believe he put that out there? Yeah,
whatever Paul says on here, just don't believe it.
Okay, all right.
It's the opposite, right?
I was floored when I saw that. I didn't believe it. So I just wanted to. I'm sorry, Julie. Go ahead.
Now, Julie, going back when you said when you're going through, when you have time to go through those, you actually do call some out. What kinds of comments are you calling out?
Comments that just don't make any sense. Yeah. So you're asking. Let me see if I can come up with. Every once in a while, someone will. We haven't seen it lately, okay? But there was once a time when someone said it tasted like dog food years ago, all right? Yeah. And we kind of talked to them about those things. If you know what dog food tastes like, I'm not exactly sure we want you judging, right? So we don't see that as much anymore, or ever anymore, actually. I haven't seen it. But sometimes you look at them and we'll get them and it'll say something like it tastes like lighter fluid or it tastes like creosote, and we'll take it back and we'll ask them to kind of clarify that, because we all know that nobody's eating telephone poles, so we probably don't know what creosote tastes like. So we encourage them to describe it as an acrid taste, or it's something other than it tastes like a telephone pole. You know what I'm saying? So those are the kinds of things we look for. Generally, when we call out, it's because the scores don't match, or the categories don't match. And the case that you were talking about earlier, Brian, you almost wonder, did they get the right category circled? And I saw that mentioned as a possibility on that thread as well. Maybe.
I will say I have cooked ribs, and this person swears up and down, and I believe him. He, like I say, he's a friend of mine. I believe him. I love him. Sorry. But I almost said it there.
I love him too. He's cool.
But I've cooked a rib before and I took a bite out of it and the top part came out. It's the bark, right? Like they call the bark skin, right? Sure. And to me, I get it, right? Like, just don't say it. Like, oh, right. So Lee Hickle, my buddy Lee Hickle just posted on here, when judges comment your brisket is dry but very moist, how do you deal with that, right? Like, I don't know. But that's one of those, like,
I don't even
throw it out and we're done with it.
Yeah, that's one of those that we give you, and we know that it probably would be a good one to pull out because you're liable to put it up on Facebook, but you want the comments. And so we're going to give it to you, and you decide what you're going to believe and what you're not going to believe.
Well, I think a majority of cooks do want them.
I think so.
I mean, there are some people out there that just can't handle criticism, and it makes them angry. And they're looking for some perfect feedback. And that's another thing I want to get into. And I think a lot of cooks don't understand. The judges in KCBS aren't the same kind of judges you're seeing on the Food Network. Trained chefs that are judging barbecue, all right? For a large part of the judge community, none of them cook barbecue, or they never have.
Right.
So you can't expect somebody that doesn't. The only barbecue training they get is at the judges class. And if they get to 30 or between that 15 to 30, if they cook with the team, that's it.
Right.
All right. So to have that expectation, they need to be exact and perfect is just ridiculous to me. I mean, you cannot expect them to be Food Network judges in describing, and I saw that, and I hate to bring this up, but when I was involved in starting that MBT thing where we required comment cards for every category, I saw it. There were certain judges that I considered great judges, but I'll be darned, they had a heck of a time trying to verbalize and even write down what they were experiencing.
Sure.
You know, there's that common comment that you see, all flavor. Well, what kind of all flavor? What are you talking about? And some judges just have trouble doing that.
Right. Exactly. And they don't. I mean, like some of them get bitten by the bug, and they do go out and they do learn, and they watch YouTubes and they watch cooking shows and they try and learn more. Yeah. But at least the first year, maybe, you've got judges who don't necessarily even understand the cuts of meat, the parts of the pork that you're turning in. They just see that you've gotten multiple shapes of pork. They don't know what that particular piece is supposed to necessarily feel in your mouth.
And a good example of that is brisket. A slice versus a burn end. All right. So a burn end has more fat. So it's going to be more soft. It might even feel mushy in your mouth. And just because they don't like that, because they really don't understand what they're eating or the different cuts that were turned. They understand it's brisket beef, but they don't understand it's two different muscles. It's going to have two different textures. It's going to feel different in your mouth.
Right. And that's something that we encourage, that afterwards, after they finish judging, to talk among themselves at the table as much as possible and ask questions. And especially when we have a cook team that's judging, we ask them to really drill the cook teams and find out what they thought about the samples that they had and use that as a learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing, as cooks, we need to set our expectations realistically. I mean, we've got to understand this is the level that some of these judges are at, right? They don't understand it. That's why we don't turn in burn ends anymore. There's some that do, but there's a lot of teams that used to turn in all the time. They don't anymore. And that's fine, because now we learned what the judges wanted or what they didn't want. And that's what we turn in. And that's what scores. That's what competition's all about. When you're not hitting anymore, like us now, we're not hitting as much. We've got to figure out what the heck the judges want. I mean, that's a whole part of this process. If you were hitting at one point on a certain meat for whatever months you were doing well, then all of a sudden you aren't for a long period of time, obviously something changed that you might have done. And that's something you need to look at, I think. And that's where I love these comment cards, no matter whether they completely make sense, because I can try to decipher a little bit. It's better than me just getting an 8 or a 7 and no comment card.
Right.
I will take whatever feedback I can get. And you know what? If I totally don't understand it or it's crap, I throw it out. I don't even, take it into account.
True. Can I, so I'm going to, I have a hand up, but Robert, he's shutting me up. I'm on that short leash.
All right, I'll shut up.
No, I'm just kidding. So Lee Hickle says, he says, you don't have to be trained to use common sense. He doesn't agree with us. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate along with Lee, because that's what makes this show so fun to me. Is now, and I'm going to say, to do some background here. Lee is also from the IBCA, which, from my understanding, they just pull judges off the street, and they have no training. It is just hey, you come, get a fork. Here's a fork and a knife. Go to town. Tell me what you think about this food. Whereas in the KCBS, there's the judges, and we can't have competitions without judges. So whatever, that's neither here nor there. And what do we do with that information? They're supposed to be trained. They're supposed to know what they're talking about. They're supposed to give us good feedback. To your point, Robert, you're just saying, I need as much information as I can so I can be a better cook, right? Like, I want to know what's going on. That's true, Kevin. Common sense is not very common. But what do we do? What do we do with information? All right, so my friend, another friend, and it just so happened to be at Greenwood, got a comment card that said, was not enough meat in the box. Put more meat in the box. My take on that is here's what I told him. That's garbage in my mind, right? Like that's not true. They're supposed to judge what's now. If you just put in 6 pieces of money muscle, say it's pork, I don't know. Oh, look at there. I will tell you that it's Derek Johnson because he just says, what about a comment saying add more meat on pork when you put 6 money muscle slices and a big handful of bacon? What do you do with that?
That's the kind of comment card we probably would call. I mean, seriously, no. A judge should not. The judge needs to be spoken to if they've given you that comment card. They need to understand. And again, at the judges meeting, we tell them judge what's in the box, not what's not in the box. You know, obviously they're commenting on appearance scores. I would hope that's all they're commenting on is appearance scores, that it doesn't look as pretty as a full box. But that doesn't matter. You know, you're judging the meat. You're not judging the box. You're not judging the negative space in the box. No, that's something that we try and talk to the judges. We find it as a training, a learning experience, and we can step them aside and talk to them about it.
And the reason I wanted to bring this up, and I know Robert's thoughts on this, and the reason he wanted to have this conversation tonight, and I'm going to shut up again. But Julie, what I want to come across is the reps generally are doing everything they can, unless you're at a 90-person contest or a big contest, right? You don't necessarily have time to go through all those comment cards, as you said. But generally, you're doing everything you can as the rep to sit back and say, to at least highlight and look at them. You know, Robert is, and I'm going to say it, he is the guy that came up with the MBT. He wrote the rules. He did it all. He's the man that was part of it. And Robert holds comment cards to a high standard, right? That if you know anything about what he started and then he got out, whatever, the MBT was based on you turning in food and the judge is giving you good criticism, right? Right, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, you want good criticism or you want constructive feedback, but you also, and that's one thing that helped me with the MBT, it helped me understand the judges more and their mindset. All right. And that goes back to your expectations that these judges should be trained to a Food Network judge level. That's just ridiculous.
Right.
I know a lot of people here are not going to agree with me, but KCBS doesn't have the resources to train judges to that level. And most judges will not want to be trained to that level. You've got to think a lot of these judges that I know are couples. All right. It might be a husband or a wife that is into barbecue. And then, hey, honey, how about you come judge barbecue with me? We'd have fun. Something we can do together. All right. So now you have one person that really, they like barbecue. They've never cooked it. They've ate what their spouse cooked, but I don't know. I just think the expectations are a little high by some people that they expect them to be Food Network judges. You know, it's just, that's insane to me.
So should they be, if they are a certified trained judge that now, and this is going to lead me into something else. So just hear me out. Should they be as much time and effort as cooks put into their food, right? Should it be judged by somebody that is certified and trained to go ahead, Julie.
Let me play devil's advocate then. Okay. Mm-hmm. So every judge who's been trained, every certified judge who's sat through a class, they have been trained to KCBS standards. There's a set of standards that KCBS teaches these judges. So should cooks not know those standards? Because that's what these judges are looking for. Okay, so if you're pushing it beyond what, I mean, you can expect them to know what KCBS has trained them, the standards that KCBS has trained them. And that's, at this point in time, until they learn more, that's all you can expect out of them, is to judge to the standards of KCBS.
Yeah, and at these judge classes, they're not going in depth into each meat, telling you about the different muscles. That's not what they do at these classes.
Correct.
Now, if that's what you or whoever as a cook expects, they're in the wrong sanctioning body. That's not going to happen here because the time and resources required to do that it's just not realistic. Now they're going to say, well, then we spent all this money. Well, then that's what happens. I mean, I'm sure back in the day when this all started, everybody was cooking cheap meat. Yeah. And guess what? Somebody thought it'd be a good idea. Hey, how about if I do Wagyu, or if I do prime, it's better than this choice stuff. I can win, right? And then happened with Wagyu. Somebody said, how about if I cook Wagyu, better quality meat? Somebody said, hey, this Compart stuff tastes way better. I'm going to turn that in and see if it helps me win. It's just the name of the game. All right. We choose to cook the high-end meat because we think that's what wins. And over time, everybody's doing it, right? So we're all paying this crazy price to cook. And now we have our expectations to be higher as far as the judging. Well, the judging's probably close to the same as what it's always been, right?
Right.
It's us that has changed. So I think we just got to get back in our mindset here that, hey, and like Brian said, we can't take these comment cards so literally. And what you said about some judges writing, it tastes like lighter fluid. I mean, obviously, a majority of us are not using lighter fluid.
Correct.
All right? But I could take that comment and say, okay, I know I don't use lighter fluid. That's ridiculous. But they tasted something that tasted sort of like that.
Right.
All right. So obviously there was some kind of off flavor with that. What is it? That's what I need to figure out as a cook.
Exactly.
Love it. So last week, our show, Chewin the BBQ Fat, was all about the pork rule and how everything was going to be on the pork rule. And there was no discussion, like nothing like, oh, yeah, yes. Or like everybody's like, oh, whatever. That's great. There was no discussion, no back and forth. Tonight, this is awesome. Tonight, we have a show that everybody's all over the board. And I love it. And to me, that's what Chewin the BBQ Fat's all about we all are different. We all have and I think it's great. So, and I do like to play the devil's advocate, especially with Robert, because best friends, and I love talking to him about it. But anyway, go ahead, Robert. I'm sorry.
And look, I'm a cook. Mainly, I've only judged a few times, and I've helped out with a couple other things under the tent. But that, and then an MBT thing, I've learned to understand the judging process better and what's going on in their minds. But as far as some of these guys and some of the comments and concerns they have about comment sheets, we had them back in the day, right? I complain. I would listen to this on Facebook, but sorry.
Robert's in. I had to shut him off. Yes, I put his leash. I got his leash. I yanked him back in. Right back.
Got excited and touched the wrong button there.
Got excited there, and but all right, so Julie, as a rep, and I know y'all have judged before, correct?
Oh yeah.
I remember watching a barbecue pit masters, and it was the Royal one, and I saw Rusty on there. I was like, oh my God, he's famous. Anyway,
I know. Do you know how many times we hear that? I saw you on barbecue. Yeah.
As judges, so cool. Just show judges.
Where were you going with this, Brian?
So you've done the judging, you've done the reps, you've done everything, you've done it all when it comes to, and y'all even cooked. I know you've been a part of when some reps y'all came together and y'all cooked. I know that was back up in Franklin, North Carolina.
Right.
You've done it before.
No, I did chicken.
You're the chicken, and I know you do a lot of cooking because you buy stuff from us, and you're the cook. What do you think? What is your overall impression? I'm step away from the rep role, if you can, for a second, and just tell me, what are your thoughts on what you see in all of this? Our discussion tonight.
Oh, okay. I think that hopefully we're getting a good idea of what each side is thinking about this. But comment cards, as far as comment cards and judging, is that what you're asking me, or what we're seeing judging?
Yeah, Robert, can you explain to me?
I'm not sure where you're going with it.
Okay, I mean, taking away the the profession, like, what are your thoughts on comment cards? Do you think they're helpful? Do you think they're hurting the sport? Do you think that, because you see them all, right? You see the comment cards that are coming through the system, right?
Right.
Do you look at those and be like, oh, this is going to help them or this is going to hurt them? Is this beneficial? Is it not beneficial? Because I believe as a cook, and Robert, I believe you said it again, that's our only way of really knowing anything of a way to fix our food, other than having judges come to my house and not me cooking for them and them giving me honest feedback. Comment cards are our only option. Right. So do you think the comment cards that you're seeing come in at a contest are helpful or hurtful?
I think the majority of them are helpful. I think the majority of and I think all of the judges care about what they're doing, and they care about giving you honest feedback. I don't think that there's anyone that comes in there with the attitude that they're going to take you down a peg or two with their scores, that, oh, these cooks think that there's something, so I'm going to take them down a peg or two and give them low scores. The comment cards, when they tell you that they're what you've given them is too spicy, bland, those are comment cards that I think are very, very helpful. We try and tell the judges, and I very rarely see any longer a judge trying to tell a cook how to cook. You should have left this on another 30 minutes. It would have been better. Obviously, they're trying to tell you how to build a box, I guess, if somebody got a card. But the majority of them don't do that. And to be honest with you, most of the boxes we see come through, I can't believe you get much more than 8s and 9s on the boxes that we see at the tables. I walk around the judging room and I'm looking at boxes and going, wow, that's phenomenal, because there are so many of them. Yeah, there are occasions. Now, Greenwood also, they have vendor cooks. So that's sort of another end of that is we do see things that we wouldn't normally see, and it makes you stop and wonder. So, but you guys should not have gotten any comment cards that were related to those vendor cooks. Does it affect the way a judge feels when they get a vendor cook and then follow it up? If somebody's put something extremely spicy or whatnot, then yes, I think Greenwood is kind of just thinking about not requiring vendors to cook in the future, which is a good thing. We talked about that. I think that's the way they're going to go. But I think the majority of the time the comment cards are useful. The majority of the time.
And go back to Greenwood, the size of that contest, they got to fill a lot of judge spots.
They do.
That's considered a big contest. So, in some cases, you're bringing judges out of storage, if you will, judges that haven't judged, or they don't judge that often, or they live in that area and they judge one contest a year. That's Greenwood. Mm-hmm. So, what are your expectations there?
Right. The probably the most fair contest that you're going to judge is a 24-25 team contest. We all know that.
Yes.
You judge a Greenwood contest and you're going to get, the two of you may or may not go to the same table. You may never even get close to the same table.
Julie, I can promise you, if Robert and I are cooking, he's going to hit the good tables. I'm going to hit that table, and he's going to smoke. Yeah, that's the only reason. Sorry.
I've seen you get some good scores. I'm not sure I believe that. Yeah.
He's full of it, Julie.
I know. Yes, he is.
But I think I know we're coming to the end here. And I guess the point is this whole comment card on social media thing. I mean, reading some of the comments come through, and there are people here not agreeing with anything, especially that I'm saying. And this is my opinion, folks. I know that. And you're not going to agree, but I'm still going to like you. But please, and it's a free country. You can do what you want, but I'm just please urging you to stop putting stuff on social media because you're making, I can't imagine some of these people are doing it, going on there. Well, I'm going to make this judge look stupid. They might say, no, that's not what I intended, but that's what you're doing. All
That's
right.
what's happening. Yeah.
That's what you're doing. And you're not only, Pat, you might make yourself feel good, but you're screwing the rest of us. Because what's going to happen is these judges are going to say, you know what? I'm not going to do any more comment cards. I'm just going to give a 7 for my lowest thing. And that's how we get to the 7, 8, 9, right? You see that at contests where the organizers talk to the judges beforehand saying, hey, I want you to do as many comment cards. Then you see the scores go up. That's where you see a contest that has maybe 7 or 8, 700 scores. You hear it and see it all the time. But I just, please do not put it on social media. Now, if you do, you do. But like I said, I think you're screwing the rest of us when you do that. I'm sorry, Julie.
It would be nice to see an occasional comment card like that, and the cook say, yeah, you know, this was the fact, and this is what it really was this way, and I'm making a difference. Because the other question is, do y'all even change anything based on a comment card? Yeah, exactly. Robert's shaking his head. Yes,
I have.
I'm not saying me, because I don't cook enough. I don't have enough feedback. I'm an outlier, but I know enough cooks that will sit there and say that comment card did not. No, let me rephrase this. If it's a bad comment card, in our mind, a bad comment card, I think most people are going to sit back and say, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to move on and not let that bother me. The good cooks. So I'm just going to throw Chad on here. Chad Warner, he said, I got a comment card about chicken, said it tastes like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Knew exactly what they talked about, and we made a change. They were able to sit back, look at what was being said, and be constructive with that criticism instead of just jumping to something and be like, that's bull. I know what my food tasted like. I'm out, right? Like, and they're just going to throw it out. Because I think more cooks, and this is just me, my opinion, as Robert said, I think more cooks are not willing to listen to some of the comment cards, or even if it doesn't necessarily agree with what we think, and they just go ahead and write it off as a don't worry about it. Where instead of looking at it, in my way of thinking, I'm going to look at it and say, does this make any sense? Where did they come from? Right? Like, where are they coming from with this? And the whole thing that this one got started, right? I look back, I'm like, I get what they're saying. You know, me as a cook might not agree with it, but I understand with what they're saying. And then you have to make a decision on, all right, what am I going to do? Most people are not Robert, right? Most people aren't Roberts and the Brads of the world and the Chris Shaver. They're not going to sit there and dig into it very much. I think most. Go ahead.
See, that's not the case. I mean, it's human. It's the human way to, if somebody criticizes something that you just put in hours and hours to cook, it's common that you're going to get pissed off. I get pissed off, but it's what you do after that, right? You've got to calm down before you post something. And I did it again, didn't I?
No, you're here. You're good.
Sorry. I keep on
I agree.
the laptop.
At least give it a couple of days after the contest, especially a contest where it's hot or it's rainy or the environment was bad. Give it a couple of days before you jump on the Facebook with those comment cards.
Because going back, Brian, to the comment card you were talking about, I saw that individual's post of the category. And I have to say, there's a few spots on that product where I thought, okay, I could see what they're talking about. I'm not saying it was the case, but I could say, with just looking at a picture on Facebook, which you can't really tell much, but I could see some areas maybe the judge did experience that issue. Even though they didn't express it correctly on the paper, we sort of had an idea what they were talking about, right? So,
right, Robert? We discussed that.
Yeah.
You and I had that conversation. We discussed it. And it's like, but it's not that. Like, I don't know what happened this week or the past 2 weeks. Sid posted something. He's already made a comment on here about it. Sid Norris is like, did you see my comments? And I'm looking at it and I'm reading them. I'm like, I get it. I see where you could be upset, but I also, it's hard. It's really hard to tell. And I think, Robert, you going back to the very beginning of this, it's hard to figure out what a judge is actually saying in some of these comments when their wording isn't necessarily what makes us go. Like, it doesn't make sense to us all the time. So we sit there like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. And, and I know what he was talking about. I get it. But there's a lot of times on comment, and Robert, I agree 100% with you. If we're going to have comment cards coming out, quit posting them on there and complaining about every bad comment card. If you don't like it, just move on. Get rid of it. If it's not helpful to you, just move on and figure something out. Go to the rep, because Julia, if I get a comment card, can I come to you and ask you anything?
Certainly.
Yeah. So
I may not be able to answer your question, because by that point, I may or may not have seen the sample. There may have I may just look at it and shake my head as well. But hopefully, as a judge, I can probably give you some idea of where they were coming from.
Yeah. One of the comments that somebody made, and that goes back to the time you have to do, is why doesn't the table captain or the rep go back to that judge and try to get clarification?
And we do when possible. Yeah.
But in the case of Greenwood.
Right. In the case of Greenwood, you're just gathering them up. You're looking at the scorecards to make sure that makes sense. And by the time we get some of those comment cards in, we're past that point. Once we know that we can read, or that whoever's entering scores can read the scores, that there's not any question that a 4 is a 9 or a 6 is a 5. Once we know that, then we clear the table. We tell them they're good to go. They can discard their sample. And it could be 5 minutes later that we get. Now, the judge probably, they generally don't discard their plate, but the rest of the table does. But 5 minutes later, we've gone on to the next point. Greenwood being, so we're talking about Greenwood. Greenwood, we had 5 reps.
Yes.
So you would argue that 5 reps are plenty reps to manage that. But we have 1 rep who is out on the clock. We have 1 rep who is monitoring turn in. And I was in at Greenwood. We have they bring in 2 scorers, and they enter scores. They come to me, and I audit all of those scores. And as soon as Carolyn gets through with the clock, she comes in and helps audit the scores. So that left Doug and Rusty. And fortunately, Alan came along with Doug. And because of, this could open a whole nother, but because of the COVID regulations, if you've ever been inside the room in Greenwood, it's very tight. So because of COVID regulations, we use 2 separate rooms. Now, we used it as one big room. Let's don't get off on where there are 2 contests. We used it as one big room, and we had tables 1 through 14, and they hit the turn in, and they went to trays, and the trays went to 2 separate rooms. So we've got a rep in each room, with Alan with Doug and Rusty in his room without a lot of help. Mike would go, once Mike finished with turn in, then he'd go in and help Rusty with cards and whatnot. But as you can see, we were all running ragged the whole weekend. That's a lot of teams, a lot of area to cover for 90 teams.
And I will say,
there wasn't a lot of time to read and say, and to go back and ask if, why something was said.
I will say that Greenwood was a very well-run competition. Everything about it was very good. I don't think
those girls doing a phenomenal job.
I don't think there was anything wrong with the scoring. Yes, you have tables of angels and you have tables that's going to happen anytime. Robert will tell you that all the time. It's going to happen no matter what. When you get a big contest, Greenwood, I had two or three comment cards at Greenwood for ribs. Both of them said too salty, not tender enough, not tender enough. Spot on. I know right away leaving there that I got to do something, right? It was very beneficial to me. I would say 98% of the comment cards, that if there's 500 of them, 98% of the comment cards that came out were extremely beneficial. So
Exactly.
overall, I would say comment cards are beneficial. We need to use them. And when I was saying earlier that most people don't use them, I think most people, if they get something they don't understand, they're just going to be real quick to jump and yell about it, talk about it, and then get their feelings hurt and move on. Instead of looking at it like, to me, if I would have had that one, be like, okay, well, I got these other two that told me exactly what I need to do on my ribs, right? Like, I'm looking at it as if I didn't get those comment cards, I wouldn't know that my ribs are too salty. I wouldn't know that one of them told me it was too peppery, right? Like, okay, I've got a problem. Go fix it, right? Like, so to me, without comment cards, and I hope, like, as you said before, Robert is always full of knowledge. He's always the wisest man in the room. He's like, I call him the professor. The guy's awesome. If you, if we will, use it for our advantage. This is the only information we get, right? It's the only information we get as cooks, as criticism, and use it and be able to, and be able to go ahead and grow and become a better cook from it. And yes, and I told my buddy Derek when he talked about the not enough pork in the box, that could have easily been a GBA cook that just so happened to decide to come up and do a KCBS contest. GBA in Georgia Barbecue Association, they want the box full. There's no garnish. Yeah. Robert's he goes and cooks and wins. It's amazing. There's no garnish. So you have to fill that box up with meat. If you're used to seeing that, and then all of a sudden you go to KCBS and you get 6 slices of money muscle and a little bit of pulled, it looks like you're not turning any meat, right? So take it with a grain of salt, I think, right?
And another question, what were the appearance scores that he got on that particular?
Derek, if you're watching, what were your appearance scores? I don't know. Yeah. 8 probably.
The question is, the judge may not have marked down for it. They may have just thrown that out as so
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, Robert. I know we're encroaching on your time. The guy that posted the skin comment told me, he's like, and the bad part about, he got an 8. The bad part about it was the scores didn't correlate. He got an 8 in tenderness, right? So if you have a bite and it says the skin came off, you would think that you're going to get a 6 or 7 in tenderness, right?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Because they're judging the whole tenderness. It's not just the skin. They're judging the tenderness of the meat. And I've heard from judges a lot of times, well, usually if I can't bite through the skin, I'm going to give them a lower score, but it's not a 6. Like if they chew into the meat then, and that's dry, they're going to go lower than that. But I've heard judges say, usually if it's just the skin, but the rest of it's great, they're just going to give an 8.
And that's what
you can't complain about that.
That could have been an instance where the judge was telling the cook why they couldn't give them a 9. I would have, given you a 9 had this been the case.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they've been asked numerous times to provide a reason why they couldn't give a 9. So
if they give you a comment card that says bland, all right, they're not saying it's sickeningly bland. They're not saying it's slightly bland. They can't say a level. Their level is that score, right? So if they give you an 8 and say it's bland, and you turn around and say, well, they should have given you lower if they're saying it's bland. Not necessarily. It depends on what level of blandness you're talking about, right?
Randy, we're talking about skin on ribs. So I'm sorry. The whole, so.
Oh, yeah, that's that comment. Yeah.
So he just said, so bite through skin is a criteria in KCBS. I don't want to get into that. We'll talk about that on another show.
But yeah, I think the point of all this is, please, if you get a comment card, do like Julie does as a rep. When she gets the comment card, she goes through her review and she culls some. All right. Some are good, some are bad. You do the same thing at home. When you get your comment cards in the sheet, if you think it's full of crap, cull it, throw it in the bin, right? And move on. Now, if there's a certain issue that you think the rep needs to go to the rep. In the case that ones we saw posted, if you are still pissed off about it, guess what? Scan it in and send an email to KCBS. Right?
Yep.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to handle that.
Yeah. Because they can take this card and they can go back and they can find those cards and they can look at this and they can kind of at least see what the rest of the table thought about it. They may or may not be able to determine who the judge was, because if there were more than one judge that gave you similar scores. But, you know, in the case that we're talking that brought all this about, that would not necessarily be something we would have called anyway had we looked.
Yeah.
That's one of those that we would certainly have given. The only thing we would call out we wouldn't even call it tastes like lighter fluid, because that gives you some point of reference. Hopefully you understand what they're trying to say, you know. So understand that we're not taking, I don't want judges listening to this and thinking that their comment cards are thrown out. We don't do that. But certainly if you had said something that was just so negative that, you know, it tastes like something my dog would eat, that doesn't tell anybody anything. That's just being ugly. And exactly. So I don't think we can give you that. But yeah, just take it with a grain of salt and try and figure out. But ask us about it. Ask another judge. Say, why would they be giving me this? You know, what does this mean to you? If you see a judge, and, you know, carry it to the next contest and say, I got this comment card, and yeah, you can't taste my meat at this time, but what does it mean when they say that the skin of the rib came off, or whatever it was? I don't remember now, but you know what I'm saying. You know.
Oh, so Julie, Robert, are we done? Did we go through my agenda that I didn't ever?
I think we did. We went through the agenda.
Okay, good.
I think we made our point, and and I hope people better understand the process of the comment cards, because a lot of the comments I saw from those other posts was like the reps and the judges had all this time to write, you know, whatever. So, and I've personally been hurried, and I'm trying to think of a word, and you know what, I can't think of that word, so I'll just write this. Very common, especially now that I'm getting older. Just I forget things. So, and it's not unfortunate, but usually the judge pool is older anyway, right? So again, it's knowing your judge pool and knowing what they're looking for. That's our job, right? As cooks, to figure that out, to score. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah.
All right, good. So I just had to pour a little bit more, because I'm going to ask Julie a question now.
Oh dear. Pour me one there, Brian.
Yeah. Just going to get a little bit more here, because this is going to be fun. So Robert, do you mind if I ask a couple more questions that are not in the comment card section?
You're fine, buddy.
Just Chewin the BBQ Fat. So Julie, as a KCBS rep, the new pork rule that is possibly going to be changing soon, what do you think? Will that make your job any easier or harder, or will it change anything if they change the pork rule?
I don't see that changing anything on our standpoint, where we're coming from. I don't see it making any easier or hard. I mean, we inspect your meat at the beginning, right?
And I've never seen, like, and I'm going to open a can of worms, whatever. I've never seen a scale being walked around at a contest. So is it something, if y'all see something that visually looks small, and then are you going to say, okay, we need to do something about this? Or have you ever even seen anything that looks like it's below 4 pounds?
I've never seen anything that looked like it was smaller than what we expect. I think if I did see something, I might ask a cook from either side to come over and take a look at it. I get some verification from someone else. Because no, we don't carry a scale in our pocket. No. So, and I don't see us having to do that now. I don't think. You know, we verify that the meat that you bring in there is the meat you're supposed to have. We don't verify that the meat you turn in is the meat that we inspected either. There's no way of doing that. It's like someone mentioned that a couple of weekends ago at Greenwood. This is a gentleman's sport and a gentle lady's sport. It's kind of like golf. You know, you you be honest. If you're not playing by the rules, you're not hurting anyone but yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know what? If you're breaking the rules, it's up to us as cooks and to police that. That's
right.
That's just the way it happens. And
Right.
we've caught some people doing some stuff. So, and
There
it's
you
been
go.
brought up to KCBS and things have happened.
Right.
So yeah, that's our responsibility just as much as KCBS reps and everybody else.
So Robert, I'm sorry, go ahead, Julie.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm just curious about that rule. But I don't
it hasn't changed yet. It's just up.
I know it's being considered, but does that take it from a barbecue to a grilling contest?
Why is my question. Why would it?
Why would what?
Why would it make it be a grilling contest?
I don't know. I have heard, and I mean, me, you're not spending the time. You are just putting it on. I mean, you don't have to cook it as long. I've heard cooks who said it would turn it into a grilling contest. I'm asking you.
Yeah, I've seen that comment, and I'm sure that one floors me. Right, I am part of I got cans now. I am part of I cook barbecue hot and fast. I do not trim my pork butts down to 4 pounds. I cook my pork butts. They're probably close to 5.5 pounds. So I'm not anywhere near this 4-pound thing. I can cook pork in 3 hours, right? Like it is done in 3 hours. So I don't see that big of a difference. Now, for me, all I'm turning in is money muscle and bacon. I need that process in order for me to be able to have the bacon and the money muscle done at the same time.
Right.
A lot of people are doing that. Robert, I want to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot tonight. What do you think about this? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing, and different, or whatever?
You know what? I like it. I don't see anything wrong with it. We're moving into more of a hot and fast cooking era, if you will. And a lot of the people that I've seen comment against it are the low and slow purists. People that for old school that say, well, we might as well, you can just cook a pork steak now on a grill.
Cook it.
Hey, why not? What's the difference? You're cooking a little piece of chicken on the grill really fast. So what the heck's the difference? Right? We're talking about the size of the meat. So, what about chicken? So we shouldn't be cooking chicken either?
That's been my, I still take my brisket still takes me forever to cook at 4.5 hours, right? Like it takes me forever to cook my brisket and it takes me 4.5 hours, right? Like, I mean, right. And if you listen, Brad had a comment, like we did a whole show last week about pork and nobody had an issue with it. Nobody was a big deal, whatever. And then he posts something on there and all of a sudden chicken's not barbecue anyway, according to Jonathan. Robert. A lot of people were getting upset about it. And I just don't understand why. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. That's why I keep trying to ask people, what am I missing? Where am I missing the grilling comment? Like, right, I've heard a couple people say, well, then it becomes a grilling contest. No, we still have to cook 4 meats, right? Like it's still cooking 4 meats.
I think when they're saying grilling, they're talking direct heat, right? Well, we're already doing that.
Yeah.
You're already doing that on a can, right? Without a diverter. So what's the difference?
So there you go.
It's great.
You convinced me.
And if anybody needs a drum, a gateway drum, I'll have 4 available for sale at the next conference.
It's got to sell those drums, right?
You don't like them? I'm like, no, I just need some new ones. So all the time. There's no, Mark Porter asked, there's no weight restrictions on brisket. Why is there one on pork? It opens up a whole can. Like it's a whole, and Julie, I know you're KCBS, so you might have more reasonings for all of this stuff, but I don't know. No, don't even bring me into it.
I don't. I mean, I'm not KCBS. I'm Emory University Hospital. This is my job. And I'm a subcontractor with KCBS, so I don't know all the whys and the wherefores. The one thing I have learned is that there's usually a reason behind every rule. I don't necessarily know the reason. Sometimes we'll spend time with Carolyn at somewhere like Greenwood, and we find learn some of the reasons why there are rules. But I don't know why there's a weight restriction on pork and not on brisket. Don't know the answer to that.
Okay. All right. I got a question. Randy, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here for you. I don't know. Did you read it, Robert?
What was that?
What was the original intent of KCBS? Are we just making barbecue easier? No, I don't think so. Bro, that's fine, but learn how to adjust your timelines on not low and slow, lean closer to hotter. But on big meats, I think the cook should demonstrate how to cook the cut. You know, that I don't know exactly what you're asking me, and I don't know if you're whatever. I don't know. I'm not me. You know, I will put Brad Leininger up against anybody, right? I mean, dude cooks hot and fast. He's got a fast cook, and he can demonstrate how to cook. The dude went to Memphis in May, right? Who was the kings? They're the kings of low and slow, and went in one shoulder hot and fast. So I don't know. It doesn't matter. You can cook the best barbecue low and slow. You can cook the best barbecue hot and fast. It doesn't matter. You just figure out what works for you. And Robert, I'll let you reply to that, since Robert is in my opinion, he's my hero when it comes to barbecue. So I'm going to let him go to that.
A bunch of people are throwing up right now. No, I mean, he's saying they need to demonstrate how to cook the cut, but what do you define as the cut, right? What do you define as the cut? I mean, are you saying that we should demonstrate how to cook a whole shoulder, including the picnic and the butt together? I mean, that depends what sanctioning body you're in, right? So I don't understand that question. We should demonstrate how to cook the cut, because the cut is whatever you decide to cook.
I'm not changing. I'm still going to cook bacon and money muscle, and I'll have some tubes in there that
I think this change has to do with where we're heading with the hot and fast, right? It's easier to cook and quicker to cook a smaller cut of meat than a bigger one. We all just want to get in there quick, cook the damn thing, and get the heck home, you know?
So, Julie, when was CBS started? Do you know off the top of your head?
Aren't we celebrating
50 years?
Pardon?
Is it 50?
I believe so. I don't remember.
If it isn't, it's pretty darn close.
It's getting close. Yeah, we're celebrating an anniversary, and I don't remember exactly which anniversary it is. 50 seems a little long, but regardless, what is the intent? The question was, what is the intent of KCBS? I think the intent has evolved over the years.
Oh yeah.
So, we can't say that what Carolyn and her husband and friends sitting in the driveway cooking barbecue one night and decided, hey, let's do this as a competition. What they had in mind is certainly not what is right now. And things have evolved, and you're not going to stop that evolution. It's going to continue to evolve, or it will go away.
It's called life, Julie. It's called life.
There you go.
And that's saying that shit happens, right?
There you go.
It happens.
35 years, everybody. 35 years.
35.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Feels like 50, right?
Yeah, it's close enough to 50. I mean, it's closer to 50 than it is 10. So, we're going to stick with that. And I really am looking forward to going out to cook again and the Royal, which I know the Royal's not part of KCBS. We've had all this, but it's a lot of the times when everything is celebrated. But it just I just like, everybody says, well, you got to have 2 long cooks and 2 short cooks. Well, the 2 long cooks and 2 short cooks lost. I mean, that left probably 3 years ago, I think, and just go cook and have a good time. And I guess next to chicken will need to weigh 32 pounds. It could. You never know, Mark. Whatever. But that all being said, I like on Chewin the BBQ Fat to have discussions. Generally, I do everything I can to stir the pot on this show. That's what I do. I don't normally have answers one way or the other. So
I think I definitely did that this week.
Yeah, you did.
I did. Yeah. A lot of people are going to unsubscribe to Silly Barbecue Life now. Oh, well.
Well,
I knew it hit close to some people, and I know a lot of people disagree, but and that's fine.
Life. When was the last time you updated a new show on Silly Barbecue Life?
I don't know. Don't bring that up.
Yeah, you
It's
did.
getting late.
You did. Julie, have you seen any of the episodes of Silly Barbecue Life?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh.
I need to go and
tell them that I sent you to subscribe because it does a lot. Some of the best. Robert and Lex do an awesome job. They generally go to contest, and they don't just do the contest. They show what it's all about, like what each contest is about. He'll do history as a smokers, or he'll do, coming to Georgia. We are loaded with barbecue smokers. So he went around and saw the different smokers and talked about it. But what Robert and Lex are doing in that show is really cool. I think it's something that needs to be done. I
just need to get motivated and start doing some more. That's all.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah,
but
you can. I need it.
Please do. Lex, I know you're watching. Can you get on him to make sure that something happens?
Yeah.
But anyway, Julie, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for what you do in barbecue, because I say this all the time. And I'm going to end this show of barbecue contests cannot happen without judges. If we continue to bash judges and get mad at judges and blah, 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 then we won't have anything to do. And then all I hear is that 100% CPJ? Is that this? Is that that? Yes, it's 100% certified trade judge, right? So, but don't get mad when they give us a comment card, right? Like, we have got to have judges. We've got to have reps. We've got to have organizers. And then all us as cooks can come along and do what it takes to do what we love, and that's cook barbecue.
And we always hope that over time, KCBS will do more to make the judging a little bit better. And I think they're trying to do that. I mean, if you look at what they post certain things on the website for judges to take tests and things like that. Now, if you expect them to force them to do it, that's where you got to remember, us cooks don't pay to cook a contest, right? They don't. Most of their membership fees come from judges. That's how KCBS supports itself. So you just got to remember that too, right?
Well, and KCBS is developing a training program, a continuing education program. Right now they do have a section where you can go in and you can take a test. You can see if your knowledge is still, what KCBS is expecting. I've taken the test multiple times just to see if they've added something new, and they don't update it a lot, but it does get updated. But they are working on some videos that we go in and we watch the video, and everybody, myself included, the reps, because we are judges, watch the video, you take a test afterwards. So they are working on a continuing education process. But that doesn't mean that they're working on teaching them how to be a butcher or how to be, 4-star chef. We're just they're just teaching us and how to judge according to their standards.
And maybe that would maybe, I don't know if anybody's thinking about it. Maybe that'd be a great idea for there to be some information about the cuts of meat from a butcher type on the website for them to go to if they wanted to. Not that we're forcing them to do it, but if they wanted to learn more about the muscles in a brisket, why not?
And what the muscles are used for. Yeah,
exactly.
There is that. I'm telling you what, did I not have the best guest on tonight? I mean, anytime Robert's on, always a great show. And then Julie, you have been awesome tonight. You're always awesome.
Thank you, Julie.
I so appreciate everything. Anytime I show up to a contest, I'm so excited to see y'all.
We appreciate that.
So it's been a long night. It's been a long show. Robert is way past his bedtime.
Yes, you are.
I don't know. Julie, when are you repping again? When can people see you?
We're doing the Georgia Barbecue Championship Summer Throwdown. Yeah. Love to see some more teams. Right now we're over 50 with pro and backyard. So you've got myself and Rusty, and Wayne Harper's going to join us as the third rep. So it should be a lot of fun. Come out and be hot with the rest of us, because it will be hot, but it is there and coming, and it's at the barn, it's at the fairgrounds, so it's a nice venue. The organizers, GBC, it couldn't be any better.
Right. So if you've
So
never
y'all come out, Robert.
Yeah, Robert.
I'm not sure I saw you on the.
No, it's not our all Friday, so I can't.
And I will say he's in second place in pork.
Who?
You.
Oh, I'm not even following any of that stuff this year.
Well, I am. Just the pork. I'm beating you in pork. So come on out and cook pork, buddy.
There you go.
No, but it's if you haven't signed up, and Robert, before I let you go, we will be cooking the summer showdown there at Cumming, Georgia. It's at the fairgrounds, as Julie said. It is an incredible venue. Power, water, plenty of power, plenty of water, huge area. And as Julie said, I think they're at roughly 50, 55 teams combined. The goal is to be at 75 teams, 50 backyard or 50 pro, 25 backyard. It's going to be a blast. Stephen Ellis is putting it on. He just posted the, let me show that for y'all. That's the website, the link. Go ahead, sign up. It's going to be a blast. We will be delivering products. I will have drums for sale. If anybody needs them, come see me. Little thing. Yep. Tom will be in your neck of the woods. He has asked 14 times, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it. Julie, what are your thoughts of garnish? I love garnish. Robert, garnish. What are your thoughts on garnish since he's asked so many times?
I don't see anything wrong with garnish.
I love garnish.
Yeah, I don't think anybody any longer judges for garnish. We have drummed that into the judges' heads. We're not judging garnish. We're not judging sauce on the lids. We're not judging the styrofoam containers. You're not eating the garnish. I don't see any problem with garnish. Garnish makes it pretty.
That sounds like a new show. We'll talk garnish.
Yeah, talk garnish. Talk about. But while we're talking about other contests, let me just mention, you asked where I was going next. The weekend following that, we're going to Savannah, and I was talking to the organizer in Savannah to find out where is he. So we were talking about. I was asking him how he was doing with teams, and he said he hasn't got as many applications as he'd like, but he's got a lot of commitments. So I'm going to ask anyone who's online that has committed to going, please turn in an application. They need to know who's going to be there. We need to know who's going to be there. But we're 3 weeks out. Y'all, if you're planning to attend, fill out an application. Give them that much respect.
That's a good contest.
It's a great contest.
It's actually the third year.
Yep.
It is a good contest. Oh, I thought you said it was a new contest. It is a good contest.
No, it's a good contest.
Yep. The guys are just the Shriners are wonderful. Yep. All of the people who put it on, they care. But yeah, so
I want to say it's 10 minutes from downtown Savannah.
It's at the Shriners. It's not downtown. It's not far from downtown.
It's not far,
yeah.
I mean, and it is awesome. It is a fun place to go and see. So, how's Rusty doing?
How's who?
Rusty, your husband.
Oh, he's doing good. He's in Rochester.
He's in bed already.
He's in New York today, so probably he is. I don't know. It's 10 o'clock. He gets up a lot earlier than I do.
Awesome. So. Well, Robert, we're closing it up. Where are you going to be next week? Are you frozen?
No. Doing a practice cook this coming weekend, and then we're not doing Cumming. I think we're in Huntsville, Alabama. Whistle Stop, local.
When is that?
Is our next contest? I can't remember.
My gosh. Are you signed up for the Royal?
A couple weeks. I think it's 3 weeks is Huntsville.
Are you signed up for the Royal?
And then Huntsville. And then we're going to do that contest in Nashville that they came out with, that big one at the stadium.
You got in there?
And then we're going to do the American Royal.
So are you cooking the double at Banjo BBQ to get ready for it?
No, we are not. Cooking Nashville.
Oh, is that weekend?
Yeah, same weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, Nashville's close. That's the only reason. I love Banjo BBQ, but it's a bit of haul for me. And with us going to the Royal, I said, you know what? Rather do something close. You know?
It's all downhill. It's all downhill.
It is downhill. It's the uphill coming back.
So, Julie, will y'all be repping? Will y'all have anything to do with the Royal this year?
No, we don't rep the Royal.
Do you judge it?
No. We've judged it, but I've not. No, we haven't been there in a while. we judged maybe 5 times and then got started repping. So we spend most of our vacation time repping.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for coming on. I hope y'all learned a lot about comment cards. Robert, you started this show. I'm going to let you end the show.
Oh, you're making me end it. Well, I just want to thank Julie for being on. Thank you for Brian for, and you know what, as I said, I know we stirred the pot this weekend and there's a lot of people that, weren't happy with what I said, in my opinion, and that's fine. It's a free country. But we just ask you to think about others when you post this stuff online and how it impacts other people beside yourself. So there you go.
And this is 100. This is Robert's show tonight. If everybody wants to be back, that guy. I'm just kidding.
All right.
Thank y'all so much. Hope you have a wonderful night. Come back next week on Chewin the BBQ Fat. We're going to have another wonderful show. In 2 or 3 weeks, I've got Bill Purvis coming back on. And he doesn't know it yet, but he's bringing on another guest. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time. But come on back next week, Chewin the BBQ Fat, and we will see you then. Have a great week, everybody. And my birthday is tomorrow, so thank y'all.
Happy birthday.